Okay, I won't bore you guys with all the information that I feel like you probably already know about the Daybell case if you are watching this. So, I just want to talk about my experience of being in the courtroom in person. It's still so crazy to me. And by the way, my excitement, yes, I am a true crime fan and I've been following this case forever, but that doesn't mean that just the weight of this case and the victims and just like the horrific crimes that happened is not something that weighs really heavy on me and hopefully on everybody, you know, like I love true crime because I feel like I just love to know the way that people are and what makes them do the things that they do. Like, to me, that's so fascinating. And especially just like the whole LDS tie within this case is very interesting to me. And the whole prepper movement, I have somebody in my life that I won't mention, but they are very much, I would consider a prepper, I think. When they said that they weren't televising this case, I was so bummed out because I just want to see how Lori is. Because even when like Nate Eden was interviewing her, or I guess not interviewing her, but ran into her in Hawaii and was like, hey, where are the kids? Her mannerisms and just like her state was still very chirpy. And so to me, it's like, I just wanted to see if she was like that in court. And she is. Straight up. When she came into court, it was almost like she knew all eyes were on her. And I remember she was wearing a black suit and a purple blouse. She didn't wear heels, I don't think, but I think she was wearing something that was like weighing her ankles down. And she just looked down like at her outfit and like sort of like smiled. Like, oh, I still got it. And then like looked up at or not looked at the public, but quickly just like looked up and then got into her seat. But every single time that we have a break or whatever, like she walks up and leaves and then she comes back. And so it's just this thing every time. And she's smiling, like not just like a smirk, like, you know, like a closed mouth smirk, but like actually like you can see her teeth and she is smiling and talking to her attorneys. And the entire time that we were in court, she was doing that as well. She was smiling and like cracking jokes and kind of like, you know, hitting the attorneys and like, you know, like, ha, like, look at this, what I wrote on the paper. And the whole time she was just doodling. It was like, I wanted to see what she was writing because I was really close to her. I was like, say that her table is right here, okay? I was literally kitty corner. So there's the closest bench. The two closest benches to her were reserved for her friends and family. And nobody was there except for one person who I think was on just their team. Like wasn't in relation to her at all. So it was just one person. And then there was one more bench behind that. And we were just right there at the very end bench. So who was in front of us was Nate Eden and then a couple of girls. And that's it. So we had a clear shot of Lori the entire time, my mom and I. And she was very alert. Like, I think that she was just doodling in her notes, almost looking busy, but I think it was like a defense, like it was like a tactic for her to look like she was doing something important when she was like, it almost looked like she was writing X's and O's at the top, like pretty big, and then she would just like hurry and go down to the bottom and like write like things sort of like aggressively. It was the weirdest crap I've ever seen. I wanted to see it so bad because every time that there was like any sort of sidebars, the white sound machine would go on and then the two teams would go and converse in the corner, and then Lori was there to just sit by herself. But every time that she sat by herself, she turned her back to the public because I think she didn't want people to see her notes, because I'm sure it's gibberish and like I don't know what it is, but I would compare it to like, you know, when you're in school or in class and you just like look really bored and you're on your phone. That's kind of how she was. But the only, I think, 2 times that like she really had her attention like on the screen the day that I was there was when they showed a picture of Tylee and JJ and Alex in Yellowstone. And she was like staring at them almost like it was like a daydream. Like she like kind of had her hand like this, and she like was just sort of like smiling and like just looking like happy, like she was just reminiscing on old times. And that was just so weird to me, because it's like, you know, the FBI agent, as he's describing like their last whereabouts in Yellowstone, because they died, or Tylee supposedly, you know, died the next day. And so it's just so weird that she could still be so disconnected almost. And then the other time was later in the day when the pathologist from Utah went through the autopsy photos. Some of them were too graphic to show us, but they did show the jury. But the ones that we did see, that is when Lori, like, when she knew that they were about to go through Tammy's autopsy, she like looked at her attorney and was like almost like a confused, like, why? Like, what? Like, and she didn't look away from those photos. So maybe because she hadn't, I don't think she's met Tammy, but yeah, she's accused, you know, of conspiracy to commit her murder. But she thinks maybe it's not like, she's not maybe as like attached as, you know, her children, obviously, because I know that she couldn't look at those photos. But I just didn't expect we were going to see that day. We saw one of her when they actually found her, you know, and she had some pink foam like coming out of her mouth, and it looked really not natural. A little bit was dripping down, but for the most part, I think it had settled like at the corner of her mouth. And then they showed a little bit, like she was like in a nightgown, and so you could tell that she was like sleeping. And I think she was just like either laying on her sheets or on like her comforter. But then the other ones were just her, after they exhumed her body, you could tell that there were bruises on specific areas that the pathologist said that went hand in hand with like asphyxiation. Can I say that? So yeah, so basically it almost looked like a hand was like on her arm, and then there was one like on her chest, but they didn't show the chest one because they said that was like too graphic. However, Lori's attorneys, I don't know if they were doing it on purpose or not, but maybe because we were so close to them, we could just like see maybe what they were seeing. But he was going through the photos, and like as he would like turn the next page, it was like he did it in slow motion. So I basically saw a lot of the photos that we weren't supposed to see, because he was just like, he would like go like this, put it down, go like this, put it down. And yeah, so that was those were the only two times that she seemed really interactive with what was on the screen. The whole DNA that they found with the hair on the duct tape of what was wrapped around JJ, that to me was like the smoking gun, in my opinion. When they actually, because it was so yeah, that was yesterday, and we were 5 minutes late to court, my mom and I, so we had to wait until mid-morning break to actually get into the courtroom. So the whole DNA like reveal, we were in the overflow room, and we were sitting right behind Chad's attorney. And that was very fascinating, because he really just like didn't, like you could tell he was like intently listening. And I'm just so curious to know what his thoughts were, you know, about them finding Lori's DNA, because if that's the only DNA that they found and they didn't find, you know, Chad's or whatever, I mean, who knows, maybe they could try to use that for his case. I mean, I just feel like they have so much more evidence on him than they do of Lori. But yeah, overall, I really do believe that she believes it. I just believe that she believes that she wasn't like a part of it and that it will all be good in the end. Like, that's just the way that she's coming off. I don't know if I said this, but when I first saw her, she looked so old, you guys. Her hair was parted like mine, okay, right now. And I was able to see just like the side of her for the most of the day. And her roots were just completely gray and looked greasy. Her hair looked greasy. She had no makeup on, clearly had no like Botox or fillers. So she looks very different. And I think that's why she wears glasses, to sort of cover her face. She's got her hair like in front of her face, and then she just like wears glasses. There was a few times that she took off her glasses and she still looked different to me. She just looked like she aged. It almost looks like her nose is like curling over like a witch. And her eyebrows, it's like she doesn't have any hair from like here to here. Don't we all? But I don't think she's allowed to wear any makeup. And she's very, very skinny, a lot skinnier than I expected, and just looks sort of frail in a way. Since there were like no people in between us, Lori and I did make eye contact for, I would say, about 2 seconds. Not enough time to like have anyone makes any sort of like facial expression. Like, I just stared at her. Well, because I felt like I felt like eyes were on me, and I looked and I saw that she was looking, and so then she turned away. And I was just like, oh man, maybe she's wondering like who I am, because I thought that the courtroom, there was like 400 people, because when I went to reserve the tickets, it said courtroom 400, and for some reason I was like, oh yeah, 400 people, but that's actually just the number of the courtroom. In like the public seating, there is about 30 people, and that's including like the victim's family and people that maybe are there for Lori, which is nobody. Like, there was one person sitting there, and I think he was just part of the team. And then the rest were just really news reporters. There were a couple of girls, mostly just women there. I met somebody that was friends with Julie Rowe, who, if you guys know the case, then you know that she was a book, or she had written a couple of books underneath Chad's like publishing company, and so she was kind of like tied up in that. And the girl told me that she actually has had some crazy experiences, just like some spiritual experiences. So she wanted to be there to sort of see like, oh, am I like seeing, light things or dark things? It was a little interesting, because she said that she's not very like forthcoming with that information, but she was pretty forthcoming. I heard her say it a couple of times to me and other people, and so I just thought that was really fascinating, because if she is experiencing stuff like that and then seeing Lori, I'm sure that I'm sure it just is a weird experience for her. But so yeah, I met her, and then I met all the reporters. It was crazy because it was so small. Like, I don't think there was a single person that I didn't talk to. I talked to Nate Eden for a while, me and my mom. We were sitting right behind him, and I just asked him if he had written Lori. He's written Lori, and of course, like, no response. I think just because she's got attorneys, like, her attorneys are involved, but he thinks that after everything's said and done, that hopefully he can get an interview with her, which that would be amazing. And I asked him too if he thought that her mannerisms were different from the time that he saw her in Hawaii versus now. And he's like, I mean, for the most part, she's pretty chippery, just like she was back then. It's almost like she has like a smile that like, I know something you don't know, kind of a thing, like, but yeah, he said that of course she looks a lot older, and yeah, I don't know. He just said for the most part, like, she just seems the same. She must know that he's in the court like every day, because she was looking around at people that were there. And someone else that I talked to Brian Enton, yeah, who is on the Kohlberger case. He's like the main dude, you know, that reports. And he was saying how he feels like the media really, like, with it not being televised, it's gone so much smoother, and he wouldn't be surprised if the whole case wrapped up within like a week. Because Lori's attorneys did mention that they don't have really anybody to, or they don't have anyone that they're bringing up on the stand, or if they do, it's very few. So that will be just wild. Speaking of Lori's attorneys, I was going to grab some caffeine. I was like falling asleep because towards the end it seemed like such a long day, and we were traveling a bunch, but I went to go grab some soda out of the vending machine, and I noticed that Jim Archibald, who was Lori's attorney, right behind me. So I'm like, yeah, I'm taking this opportunity to talk to him. So I was like, yeah, you're stocking up on caffeine? And he's like, oh, it's actually for my client. And I was like, oh, that's nice of you to do that. And he's like, yeah, it's kind of like a treat for her. And I was like, yeah, they probably don't get treats like that in jail, right? Because I heard that, like, you know, prison, you get more benefits, I feel like, in prison than you do in jail. It's a little bit stricter, or it's a little more strict. And he's like, yeah, for sure. And so I was like, well, where does she even go, like, to eat? Like, where does she go for lunch every day? She just go in the back room? Because there's always, like, a room that she will leave when there's breaks. And he's like, no, she goes back to the jail to eat lunch. And I'm like, oh, okay. So there's the jail, like, connected to the courthouse? Is there, like, a tunnel that you go underneath? And he's like, no, the jail's, like, a couple of minutes away. So they take her back there, which is wild to me, because lunch is only about 45 minutes or a half hour. And so she's got to, like, eat really quick and then come back. We were able to talk to Larry and Kay a couple of times. Larry came up to us about 4 different times during the day and just was chatting with us. And we told him how great we thought they were and how great advocates they are. And he just seems like a really good grandpa, like, for JJ and Tylee. And it's so sad to see that they have waited for so long for justice, but I think it was a good day for them. I think that they felt like things were tying and coming together because of the DNA and just really the timeline of Alex Cox and exactly where his phone was. Like, that is some crazy evidence that you just, like, cannot deny. So some things that I loved is actually seeing the jury, seeing who is in there. And there was this one girl who was like 20. She looked so young. She must have been like really just in her late teens or early 20s. And then there was this other guy who looked like a bodybuilder almost. And he was really, like, wanting to know who was in the audience, just sort of like maybe scanning to see our reaction. And I felt like I had over dramatic reactions because, like, just being there, I'm like, this is so surreal. But everyone just seemed like very serious and very, like, you know, not a ton of reaction. So it must be weird for the jury to just be hearing this for the first time and seeing, like, who are these people? And, like, little do they know, it's, like, such a huge case because it's so wacky. And there was, like, a juror that was, like, falling asleep. But yeah, so that was cool. And then also just being able to see the witnesses, you know, take, like, almost like breaths of, like, they had some anxiety. Like, it seemed like there were some nerves up there. And I think that the pathologist had never been a witness. It seemed like he really just felt like out of place. I could sort of just tell, especially when there was, like, cross-examining, like, Lori's attorney. I feel like he's just, I don't know, he's a goof to me. Like, some of the questions that he asks, I'm just like, I just, like, was smiling because I'm like, he is, like, he could ask way better questions, and he's asking all these stupid questions to me, but it must still be really intimidating to just, like, be a witness up there. But I thought that I think it was Rick, who was the FBI agent, he was so sharp, and, like, he didn't even need to really read off of anything. He just, like, had these dates memorized. But yeah, so cool. Such a crazy experience. I think Lori is so guilty. I think she believes everything that she believed even back then. I really think she's just dissociated everything about this whole thing. Like, I think too that she believes that she has really done no wrong, and that she won't be found guilty. I think she is so narcissistic that her confidence and her ego is honestly kind of appalling when you see the seriousness and you see all of these people in the courtroom, you know, really like laying out so much detail and putting their lives on hold to be here for like 8 weeks or so. And then just to have her, you know, smirking and doodling in her notes like she's 14. It just is, I don't even have words for it. It is wild. So I think if it was televised, like, it would probably make people more angry because of how just like laid back she is about the whole thing. But yeah, so I hope that was some new information that you guys got that maybe you haven't heard yet. I think that you can get a ticket still. Like, every day, if you try, go to the courthouse website, Ada County Courthouse, and you just go every morning at 8 a.m. Tickets reserve, I kid you not, by 8:01. So if you want to go, you've got to do it like 10 minutes before and just keep refreshing. Because some of you were like, how do you get tickets? And that's how you get tickets. Nothing special at all. You know, you just, if you are determined enough, I don't know if I should be embarrassed that I got it or like, you know, feel stoked. I'm going to feel stoked because it's a big deal. And I just really want justice to be served. I can't believe I was in the same room as Lori and just made eye contact with her like that. I didn't get any sort of like, ooh, like she's so evil, but I do believe she is. I really believe that she has so much evidence against her. I'll be shocked if she isn't convicted. So, all right, guys. Well, it's getting so dark now, so I better go. But yeah, bye.